Joining us now from West Palm Beach on behalf of the Trump campaign, Lara Trump, co-chairman of the Republican National Committee. Welcome. Why has Donald Trump decided not to do another debate with Kamala Harris? That doesn't sound like someone who feels great about this debate.
Well, actually, Howie, you heard him in his own words, I think, the other night talking about, or actually at the 9/11 events, talking about the fact that, look, whenever you're a prize fighter, if you feel like you lost immediately, you call for another debate. And it seems like that's what the Kamala team was trying to do. I think it's been a shame, though, because ABC News really did a huge disservice to the American people. There was such an opportunity, Howie, for the people of this country to hear from Kamala Harris. Maybe they could have pressed her, at least on anything, and get her actual answers on how she would lead this country. But instead, it was a 3-on-1 pileup. Of course, they attacked Donald Trump and he had to defend himself for 90 minutes. But look at some of the polling with independents just post-debate, Howie, and I think that's very important. We know that it's not winning with your base that you have to worry about in elections. It's actually talking to people in the middle. And people in the middle who watched that debate came away from it saying, I don't know, I kind of think I'm going to vote for Donald Trump for the most part. You look at it, some CNN polling in terms of who they feel they can trust more on the economy. Donald Trump got a 16-point boost after the debate. And so I think for him, he says, listen, I'm not going to subject myself to another 3-on-1 match like that. I can go out and talk directly to the American people. Right. I can continue doing podcasts, rallies, and going across this country and connecting with people, and they can actually have an opportunity to hear from me, which is what he will continue to do.
But the former president also says that they should take away ABC's broadcast license. Who is they? And is he suggesting that he would lead an effort to do that in a second term?
Well, what I think he's suggesting is that we have a lack of journalistic integrity in this country. There is no doubt about that. And again, it was shameful to see ABC News, who really has been a staple in our country in terms of our ability to count on them to deliver real news and information. It was a very clear orchestrated theatrical performance between Kamala Harris, David Muir, and Lindsey Davis at that debate. And sadly, it is to the detriment of the American people, again, because we didn't really get to hear true policy standpoints from either of the candidates.
And on that
they
point,
really were on full attack mode against Donald Trump.
And on my point, do you believe Kamala Harris provided enough details on her plans? Now, she has thrown out some proposals, such as $50,000 startup money for new small businesses and cutting taxes for the middle class. But do you think that there are needs that she did not fully explain where she would take the country?
Howie, she didn't explain anything. All we heard was a lot of, very light language from her, and it was very flowery, certainly, and she had rehearsed those lines very well. There's no doubt about it. But I think the reason you look at those post-debate interviews with people and they say, I feel better about Donald Trump being in the White House is because they've actually had 3.5 years of Kamala Harris there, and they had 4 years of Donald Trump there. And her going up in this debate performance and explaining nothing, the first question everybody continues to talk about, she didn't get pushed on anything, and she didn't even give an answer as to why people should vote for her or what she would do differently, or do people have the ability to trust her on the economy. She was asked in her first one-on-one debate via a Philadelphia station, I think 2 days ago, about that, and she danced around and talked about people's lawns and growing up in a middle-class community. She has never given any solid answers on anything, and I think the American people say, hey, I can look at my life right now and it's not going well. Life is more expensive. I feel less safe. We have wars around the world. I can look at my life when Donald Trump was in the White House and I had more money in my pocket, a secure southern border, felt safer in my communities, and we had peace agreements instead of wars breaking out. Well, I know how I want to vote and what I want my life to look like.
Let's take that a step further. Do you think the vice president has been adequately pressed on some of the what's been labeled flip-flops from the left-wing positions that she took 4 years ago when she obviously, as you know, this issue of fracking, the issue of abolishing private health insurance, she hasn't talked about that much.
No, she hasn't talked about it. And Howie, she hasn't been asked about it. You know, what an opportunity it would have been for David Muir and Lindsey Davis to say, by the way, Donald Trump continues saying that you would ban fracking. You, in your own words, said you would ban fracking. So tell us why you've changed your mind right now. Nobody asked about that. No one asked about anything in that debate that would actually give her an opportunity to say, here's how I came around to these viewpoints. The reality is Kamala Harris was voted as the most radical far-left senator in the United States Senate. And she did have very far-left radical policies, and a lot of people believe she still has them. It's very convenient that the border czar now, who's had 3.5 years to do her job and yet let 20 million illegal immigrants flow into this country, has now this border wall in her advertising as to why people should vote for her. It's ridiculous. It's very obvious. She is simply trying to get voters to come over and vote for her. And I got to tell the people out there of this country, listen, the same folks who have been running the show with Joe Biden in the White House for 4 years nearly would be the same people running it with Kamala Harris. It would be no different, except she actually, Howie, believes these radical policies. She said it in her own words. And yes, someone ought to press her on it and say, if you changed your mind, tell us why. But we have not gotten that.
What's gotten totally viral online, as you know, we talked about it earlier in the program, is Donald Trump saying in the debate about Springfield, Ohio, where thousands and thousands of Haitians have gone, that they're eating the dogs and eating the cats, and everybody's made these funny memes of terrified-looking animals. Do you now accept, based on what local officials say, that this is untrue?
Well, it's not up to me to decide that. This information came directly from the people of Springfield. You know, no one at our campaign, Donald Trump didn't make this up himself. You heard from people at a city council meeting, I believe, that they were very concerned about what's been going on. And I think it's a shame that people are trying to discredit the impact that the illegal immigration in this country has had on towns like Springfield, Ohio. I'll tell you what you can't discredit, the fact that a Venezuelan gang took over an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado. You can't discount that Lake and Riley and Jocelyn Ngari's families will never talk to them again. You can't discount the fact that 300,000 Americans have died via fentanyl that has flowed into our southern border, over our southern border into this country under Kamala Harris's watch as border czar. You can't discount that there's 325,000 kids, Howie, who are just gone, who came over our southern border. No one has any accounting of them. There are real problems in this country right now, and it is as a direct result of the open border policies that Kamala Harris has presided over. She needs to answer for those questions as well and tell people why you've allowed this to happen.
I'm sorry, Lara. Let me jump in because we're very short on time. Donald Trump has softened his language, in my view, on abortion, marijuana. He now says he won't tax Social Security. He won't tax overtime. At some point, you got to figure out how to pay for that. Is there any question that he is moving to the middle?
Well, I think Donald Trump is a common sense individual. This is a businessman. He still never wants to call himself a politician, Howie, despite the fact that he was president for 4 years. But when you're talking about abortion, is very clear that the thing that should have happened a long time ago in the most democratic of processes is now underway. It's that we, the people of this country, in our respective states, get to vote on this issue. It has been such an aggressive and hot button issue for so many years now. And now it is back in the states, and it doesn't need to be mandated in any way, shape, or form by the federal government. In all respects, Donald Trump can actually explain to you why he believes the things that he believes. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, cannot. So whatever it is you want to talk about, Donald Trump can certainly explain it to you. I would like to hear Kamala Harris explain even one of her policy positions that she seems to have moved on radically.
Lara Trump, thank you very much for joining us. Nice to talk to you. And after the break,
thank you, Howie,
we'll hear from the Kamala Harris campaign.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.